I am Jay Stedman, and did you know that there is a new feature that allows you to filter record access in a brand new way? Now, historically, we've granted record access to folks in Salesforce with organization-wide defaults, the role hierarchy, sharing rules, and some advanced settings like territory management. But now, you can refine and restrict record access with a feature called restriction rules. Let's take a look. Okay, so I'm here within Addison Maisley's Salesforce org, and today Addison Maisley is working at a company called Auctions Unlimited. Now, there are a variety of different auction types at Auctions Unlimited, including international auctions, federal auctions, and state auctions. Now, due to compliance at the state level, it's really important that state auctioneers can only see state auctions. And since Addison has already configured record types for each kind of auction, what we'll do is create a restriction rule that allows the state auctioneers to only see the record type of state auction. So let's head up into Setup. And from Setup, I'm going to navigate to the Object Manager. I'll use the quick find box to type in a little bit of auction, click auction, and now here on the left-hand side, I'm going to look for restriction rules. Now, when you click into restriction rules, you've got this great explanation of what exactly restriction rules do and how it combines with organization-wide sharing defaults and sharing mechanisms. And then it shows you that at the end of the day, what you have is filtered records, as records are filtered out by restriction rules. Addison steps into creating a new rule, and we will call this State Auctioneers, and the description will be only state, let's call it State Auctioneers may only see state auctions. Great. Now we're going to go ahead and click is active because I know for a fact that this works. I've tested it out. And we can choose our criteria type. We can either be permission-based or user-based. What I'm going to do is be user-based. At the user level, Addison has configured a field that dictates whether or not a user is a state auctioneer. This is a checkbox, and we're going to say if someone is a state auctioneer. In other words, if that state auctioneer checkbox on the user record equals true, then we want to restrict records. We have to specify which records we want that user to be able to see. And I'm going to use record type name in this. The way I'm going to do that is by clicking into the record type ID. And from here, I'll select name and I'll select choose. Now, the reason that I choose record type name instead of record type ID is IDs can vary from environment to environment if we're working in sandboxes, which we should always be doing. I prefer record type name because the name stays consistent. So in this case, we want to specify the records that the user is allowed to see, and those would be records that have the record type name of state auction. So we've input state auction, we click save. And great, I'm just going to double click into this again to make sure that everything is accurate. All of the fields have been filled out. All of the fields have been filled out. Great. Now what I want to do is navigate to a user and log in to check out what's going on. So I'm going to head to my users, click users. Now I'll click Corey Cook. I'm going to log in as Corey, who is a state auctioneer. And now let's take a look at auctions. Let's take a look at all auctions. And now we can see here in this view that the only auction that appears is the state auction. That means that our auction restriction rule has worked. The federal auction and international auction record types, of which we have one record of each, those are not appearing here. And that's restriction rules. Now, there are a few considerations to keep in mind if you're going to use restriction rules. First, keep in mind you want to use restriction rules if you want certain users to see only a specific set of records. And when you're configuring, you need to remind yourself that restriction rules are only available for custom objects, contracts, tasks, and events at this time. You can have 2 restriction rules per object if you are currently in an Enterprise or Developer Edition org. If you're in Performance or Unlimited Edition orgs, you can have up to 5 restriction rules per object. That's it for this session of Did You Know? And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me.